So what makes an effective PPA session? As a teacher or a leader of a team, our PPA sessions are such a valuable time, so it's important that we utilise this time effectively. So how do we do this? How do we leave our PPA session feeling like that we've achieved something and that it's going to lighten our load and help us in the coming week? Too often we get bogged down with tasks that take far too long or are not as important in a wider scheme of things we have to do. Spending and sharing the time looking at that fantastic resource or an amazing website is important, although before you know it, you've been doing it for an hour and left with very little time to do anything else. These are my top tips for a successful PPA session for both leaders and teachers in primary education. Planning. There's quite a lot to plan every week. You may have all your core subjects, which you do every day, on top of all the other foundation subjects like science, music, geography. My simple advice, get ahead. Try and plan your foundation subjects every half term and split the load with your team. It then means that your PPA time can be used to concentrate on the core subjects. Tip 2. If you're a leader, talk to your team. A quick discussion around what went well and what didn't go well is key. This informs what you're going to do in the following lessons and supports new teachers. This could also help with any assessment that will be undertaken. Tip 3. Teamwork. If in a team, work out what your lesson objectives are for the following week. This will certainly support new teachers and get them involved. It will also help with any sets in which they teach. Tip 4. Bells and whistles. Do not worry about making your lessons all singing and dancing at this point. Again, ensure you know the objectives and the learning of journey for the week. Bells and whistles can be added when you prep for the lesson later on. Tip 5. Paperwork duties, the boring stuff. Whether they're writing the plan, preparing the resources or PowerPoints, it's key that we decide on who, what and when so everyone is clear and tasked with the jobs in hand. Let's look at the preparation part of PPA. Remember when I said looking at that fantastic website at the start of PPA can consume your time? Well, now would be the time to build this in. Tip 1. Now that we've worked out and know our objectives and learning journey, this is where we can add in our bells and whistles and start thinking about how we can teach key ideas and the activities children undertake. Committing to the important aspects first ensures we can then develop the engagement and enrichment of the lessons. Resources and ideas can be shared with your team as you have mapped out the key fundamentals. Tip 2. Organisation. A very simple tip, but incredibly important. Ensure you organise resources and things you will use for your lessons into sensible folders that are easily accessible. The beauty of this is that it certainly will save you time in the future if you have to cover them again. And finally, assessment. So with everything going on, how do we commit to assessing during PPA as well? Tip 1. Well, firstly, we go back to that prior discussion about the week and where you are with your group and their learning. This is assessment. You are using this to inform future planning. It's important to do this to take into account differing group needs. If we do not, we miss opportunities to plug gaps in knowledge and skills and provide a stable basis to move children forward in their learning. My second tip around assessment is to use the books. One idea I used to use as a year leader was asking my team members to bring some of the children's workbooks from the week to aid the discussion on how things have gone. It's a great way as a leader to see what work is going on across the year group, whether planned activities have been delivered, but also find out whether your teachers need any support. My third tip is around the assessment systems and tracking. At some point you'll probably need to data input into an assessment system you use. It is often the one thing that gets sidetracked and sometimes it may not require you to do this during every PPA session. So my advice is to manage this as to when it needs doing. Some teachers may choose to do this in their own time and that's absolutely fine. The idea of looking at books and talking about progress during PPA will certainly highlight the assessment areas covered and support teachers in completing this. My last and final tip is to embed assessment throughout your PPA. When working out the objectives, have open the assessment system you may use. At least then you can work out what you're covering and if it hits any assessment criteria. So there you have it. There are my top tips around an effective PPA session. I hope these tips help you plan and utilise your PPA time effectively.